that sometimes makes me hallucinate. Sometimes, when my boys are sleeping/awake in another room, I'll see a dark ass head peek around corners at me. Have you ever heard two skunks mating at like 2 a.m.? It sounds almost exactly like two people screaming while being murdered. Bonus points if it's somewhere in the distance, so you can only sort of hear it and have to weigh your options between potentially calling the police in case a neighbor is being killed, or keeping it to yourself so you don't look like a fool. OMFG, this one time was so scary. I was on Reddit at about 3:30 a.m., just like now, and I heard the sound of something falling downstairs. Now this happens sometimes, you know, weird house sounds. So I ignored it. About 10 minutes later I heard a similar sound. Now I actually started getting scared. I'm also a person that just always thinks the worst. In this case I fantasized about people breaking in and coming upstairs to kill me or something. Now I didn't want to wake my parents, who sleep a floor above me, because of my paranoid mind. So my stupid ass decided to just take a weapon, a pretty big book, and go downstairs. Before I was even on the stairs I heard my dog, who sleeps downstairs in a crate, bark pretty loudly. By this time my heart was racing really fucking fast, because if my dog barks she probably sees a person or something move. I went even further downstairs as slowly as possible, trying not to make any sounds. Then I was at the door that separates the stairwell from the main room. At this exact time I heard another weird sound, but now it sounded more like little clicks hitting the ground. You might see where this is going, but I didn't at the time. This scared me so much that I had to stand still for a minute or so. I was trying to be the hero, so I just closed my eyes and barged in the room with a huge book in front of my head and started screaming. Then I heard my dog bark, weirdly, right in front of me, even though her crate is in another part of the room. After about 10 seconds I opened my eyes and I slowly realized it was my dog making all the sounds. So it turned out her crate wasn't closed properly, and she was just roaming around the house. And my stupid ass head thought it was an intruder. I'm also very stupid for trying to get rid of the intruder myself. I felt very stupid after this and I just put the dog in her crate and went to bed. And I was once standing in the kitchen, not facing the window, just drinking a glass of water. Suddenly I heard a tap at the window. I didn't even turn around, I slowly walked away up the stairs without ever once glancing behind me. I was freaked out. Turns out it was my brother's friends who wanted to prank our house, and when they saw me they were hoping I would help. But shit, I thought it was a murderer for a second. My dogs started freaking out and ran towards the window. Everyone was asleep in the house and I was up watching TV. I look outside and lit up under the street lamp was a family of foxes tearing into what I hope was a raccoon. It was unsettling to see it in person, but perhaps the creepiest thing was the next day I went out to the street to take a look and there was absolutely no sign of anything having taken place. Only one reasonable explanation: ghost foxes. I took a medication that caused exploding head syndrome, except my doctor failed to tell me this could happen. Several times I awoke to what sounded like radio static suddenly turned on at full volume. Once there was a flash of light accompanying the sound. It really freaked me out, especially because I have a history of my ex stalking me and because I lived on a busy street. Thankfully I learned that my med was the real cause. I suffer from night terrors and sleep paralysis every once in a while. One time I laid in bed for what felt like forever trying to fall asleep when I began to hear this mild, low growl. Like a jaguar's. I opened my eyes and was able to see a lump inside my wall and it was moving around. Every time it moved, there was a scratching and cracking. A few other times, I'd wake up from sleep unable to move and there'd be a figure at the foot of my bed mumbling to me. Couldn't make out if it was male or female, but my twin died in the womb, so I comforted myself by believing it was him visiting me. I used to live out in the country at the end of a dirt road south of Charleston, SC. Right by my house was a historical marker for the old Belvedere School. More than once I was woken up by a little girl's voice saying hi. My parents' house is haunted. As a child I would wake up to the TV being too loud. I'd go to the living room to tell my parents it was loud and the TV suddenly turned off while my parents were in bed. This happened a lot. In the basement we had a room with a stereo, TV, pool table and pinball machine. I woke up to people laughing and music. I went downstairs and it was a party with adults wearing masks. Again my parents were in bed. Years later, my nephew got hold of my camera and started taking pictures in the living room. In one photo there she was. A bright light where a ceiling fan is at without a light. She was blurry with long dark blonde hair and a green nightgown. We couldn't see a face. In my teen years when I would wake up during the night and go get a drink, I'd see her in the living room and walk through her and it would be so cold all through me. She was harmless but still. "Will you please take this bag off my head?" says a voice in the corner of my room at about 2 a.m. I am alone on the 3rd floor of my grandmother's mansion save for her asleep on the 1st floor. In the corner of my room, I know there is a ventriloquist dummy in a bag that I covered because of how creepy it looks. I just went back to bed. Was in total dark watching a movie and saw a shadowy outline with red eyes standing outside my glass door/wall when lightning struck. I swear I almost went and grabbed one of my guns. Why do I have a second black cat when I only own one? Why is my cat hissing at the dark shadow at my door? I live in the middle of nowhere. One night while I was awake and everything was completely black, I saw 3 flashes, no sound. About 2 minutes later I heard 2 large booms, like sonic booms, and nothing else. I looked all over and the next day could not find any reason for either. Not too long ago before we moved out of our previous house, one night I was drunk passed out on the couch downstairs. When I woke up the next day my son's baby bottle rack and everything on it was all over the kitchen floor and the bar stool from the kitchen was sitting next to the couch I was sleeping on. I know for a %100 fact it was not me. I live out in the woods. I leave my window open because my room is small and I produce enough heat to overheat my room. I didn't realize this was the perfect setup to get the shit scared out of me until it happened. I was texting a fellow night owl buddy of mine when I heard the loudest, most terrifying screaming of my life. Now being an armed citizen I went for my gun, pointed at the window and almost did a blind fire at someone or something I didn't know, like a dumbass. I ended up calling the guy I was texting and he rolled up 20 minutes later. We started searching the area together, back to back practically. When we got about 100 yards away from the back of my house, we heard giggling like a child's giggling. You fucking bet we ran our ass inside. It's been about 3 months now. We do not bring it up with each other unless one of us is extremely high. Disembodied voices. This has happened both when people are asleep and when no one else is here. Time of day does not affect it. Sounds like multiple people, 3 to 5, talking in hushed voices in the living room. Cannot make out anything. Occasional footsteps as well. I'm not in an apartment setting and others who live here also confirmed hearing voices. My closet in my room is built into the wall with a sliding 2-panel door. It's about 3 feet to the left of my bed. One night I'm laying in bed, watching videos on my phone, and somebody knocks on my closet door. Something knocks on my closet door from the inside. It stops, and I'm not sure if I was just hearing things or not. Then I look at the door and it starts again. Except it's louder. I can see the panels shaking and bending. I'm surprised it didn't completely open or break. Then it stops and everything is dead silent. It doesn't start again, and I didn't want to open the door. I just wanted whatever was in there to leave me alone. I've had issues with entities before, but that was the most violent and direct thing they've ever done. My dad has had problems with something knocking over things on our sink in the middle of the night. We thought it was our cats, until he watched one bottle of soap tip over by itself. Friggin' weird. All the lights off and look into that one corner. You know the one. Looks like it just absorbs any light because it's so dark. Only see this time to time, but when I do it scares the shit out of me. The shape always changes too.